Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Namaste Wellness Show, where we talk about all things holistic health for the mind, body, and spirit, for people and pets, with a touch of cultural soul. Today, I have a very special guest. In fact, all of my guests, I consider them very special. But we're going to be talking about yoga today, and we're going to be talking about kind of a specialized yoga known as Christian yoga. And my special guest is Trina Lynn Sweetheart. She's the owner of Sacred Space Yoga. She's also the minister for Frontline Christian Church. She's an adjunct professor at Wayne State University in Detroit, which is in USA. She graduated from Michigan State University. She's also a master yoga instructor and a reflexologist therapist. So welcome to the show, Trina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Laura.
You're very, very welcome. So thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about your background in terms of, as a professor, as a owner of Sacred Space, as just your general personal background and how you got into yoga.
Okay, so actually I kind of stumbled across yoga. Several years ago, my mom she died of yoga at a very young age. And I was just trying to look for things to get healthy, but also to get through the grief.
Oh, right.
But also during that time, my daughter was a figure skater. And I noticed her figure skaters, they were not as flexible and they were not mentally strong. So actually I self-taught myself yoga. And then I kind of started working with the figure skaters. And that's how it all began. Yes, it was very accidental,
So you saw a need. You're saying you saw a need in the figure skaters to be more flexible, and then you kind of just went out and said, "Hey, I'm gonna learn this myself, and then teach the figure skaters." Did it improve their skating? Did it improve their practicing?
Yes, it improved their skating. It improved their mental toughness because I used to, for their meditation, I would go through the entire program. And let them listen to the music and sit in meditation and just watch themselves during the program in their meditation. And it helped tremendously. I worked with them for about 10 years.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So were you like a coach? One of the coaches?
No, I was not. Well, I turned out to be the exercise coach after that because I started doing other things. I got certified in fitness and then in group fitness. So I became their and I traveled with them. So I became their coach as far as from a physical standpoint, but not from skating. Believe it or not, my daughter skated for 20 years and I've never been on a pair of ice skates before in my life.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So was she skating professionally or she just skated competitions?
She competed. She was a competitive skater.
For 20
and she
years.
Skated for
Wow.
From actually about 15. From the time she was 6 until she turned 21.
Oh wow. Okay, that sounds exciting. All right. So then, at what point did you open your studio? Well, let me say this first. At what point did you decide that you wanted to incorporate Christian yoga? Because I'm assuming you didn't start out doing Christian yoga, correct?
No, I didn't. Correct.
Okay. All right.
So what happened, I was working in corporate America and our secretary at the time, she kept putting all this stuff on my desk that, I thought you was a Christian. How can you do yoga? Right. How, there was she just kept putting a lot of mean things on my desk. And this must have went on for about a year. She just really harassed me. So what I did is at that time, I went to a traditional yoga studio to take my 200-hour certification. But I wanted to go to a traditional yoga studio where I would learn everything about yoga to try to understand why she felt I couldn't do yoga.
Yeah.
And while I was doing my training, two things happened. One, you know how you introduce yourself and they ask you why you're here. And I told him I was there because I wanted to learn why I couldn't do yoga and be a Christian.
Oh.
And everybody simultaneously said, why not? Yoga's not a religion. So
Right.
that was the first thing I needed to hear.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then a girl there, she was reading a book called Holy Yoga.
Oh.
And she said, Trina, why don't you look at this book? So I read the book, and after I finished that training, I went and took a Christian training yoga class. So that's how I started.
Okay, that's awesome. I always wonder why, because I was the same way. I always wonder why people felt so odd about doing yoga if you were a Christian. I could never make that connection either, you know. So, you know, it was a experience for me too, especially when I first started teaching. And I would tell my friends at work about it. And I had this one particular lady, she didn't want to hear anything about it. She thought it was, you know, evil or, you know, and I was like, wow, I never got that. Right. So it's just amazing how, I mean, people have their own impression.
Well, you know, the thing that I found out, people associated with Buddha and Buddhism. So that was one of the things. The meditation, one of the main things, how you go to that transcendental type meditation and, you know, clear your mind. And Christians don't feel that you go to that type of meditation. It's another aspect. And then because
but wait a minute, what about didn't Jesus meditate in the Garden of Gethsemane? I can never pronounce that correctly.
Yes, he meditated. The meditation is in the Bible.
Right.
But it's a different type of meditation. You're meditating on the word of God. You're meditating on Jesus. So your meditation is more direct, and it's not trying to clear your mind to a place that most people can't go to anyway, because we have we have monkey mind. We can't go to that deep, translate. Most people can't go to that type of meditation.
Right. Okay.
So that's one of the reasons. And they just think because the poses are named after animals and stuff, that we're worshiping animals and what have you. And, you know, I explained to them, the poses are named after animals and different type of things. It gives you a visual. You know what a cat looks like. You know what downward. So it gives you a visual to the pose. Tabletop. It gives you a visual. So it's not that we're worshiping the poses.
Right.
It just gives you a visual. When you talk about a pose, it gives you a visual. So that's how I explain it to them.
Well, what's interesting about that, in traditional Chinese medicine, which I know is very acceptable in conventional medicine, you know, more people use Chinese herbs, and a lot of our hospitals now have integrative medicine where they use traditional Chinese medicine. And if you look at some of the practices in Tai Chi or Qigong and those types of practices, they do copy the movements of animals. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with any of that, but I've studied that. And in fact, there's this one exercise program called the 8 Treasures. And all of the movements and exercises are like, you know, you're doing a horse stance or a crane stance. You know what I'm saying? So so that's interesting that I never heard that people were afraid and thought that in yoga you're worshiping animals. I never heard that. So I'm learning something about that too.
Yeah, you know, it's just a lot of it is ignorance, you know, not knowing what it is. And then a lot of it, people think they've done their study and they think we just made it into Christian and but a lot of it is just ignorance. And it's a shame that people really don't give it a try, because you and I both know what yoga does to the body and to the mind and to the spirit.
Exactly.
So it's really a shame that people won't give it a try.
Right. Okay. So I just want to, I'm going to intervene here. I know you're familiar. Oh, well, you took the traditional RYT, registered yoga teacher training. And then you also did you say you also took a Christian yoga teacher training?
Yeah. So actually I've taken 3 or 4 different yoga trainings, 200-hour trainings. I've taken a traditional one. And I've taken a couple of Christian ones, because now Christian yoga has gotten big, so it's a couple of
Really?
organizations out there to certify. So I've taken a couple of certifications through various Christian programs just to see how they vary and how they differ.
Okay. So do you find that they are pretty much consistent with the Christian yoga programs are pretty much consistent with each other? And what would be the different, are the main, if you haven't already said it already, what are the main differences between the conventional traditional training yoga and the conventional yoga teacher training and the Christian yoga teacher training? Are there any other differences?
Just a few differences. The difference is that in Christian yoga, we pretty much use the word of God as our truth. We don't use the Gita. We don't use those type of things. We use the word of God as our truth and the principles of the Bible as our truth. Now, with that said, we do try to, especially I do, because when I train a person, I want them to be able to decide if they want to teach Christian, because everything is not going to be Christian that you teach. So I don't say I'm a Christian yoga instructor. I say I'm a yoga instructor and I teach in various different disciplines, okay? Because like I'm getting ready to do a corporate yoga class, so I can't do Christian yoga there, you know. So I teach at various venues. So when I'm training other students to be yoga instructors, I want to train them to be versatile, not just a Christian yoga, unless that's all you know for sure you want to do. Right. But you're kind of closing yourself out, because really there is no difference. A class is the same between a Christian yoga class and a traditional yoga class. The only differences may be your music. It may be your meditation. It may be your meditation. And it just may be your wording. Like you'll never hear me say your higher power.
Okay.
I'm going to say God or Jesus. I'm going to refer to who I'm talking about, you know. So you have some very subtle differences, but the class itself should run the same way.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, I've been in your classes too. I enjoy them. Especially the meditation classes, you know, when you do the morning, when I've been on the retreats with you guys. So I just want to read here. This is from the Christian Yoga Association. Now, did you do the training with Christian Yoga Association at one point? I know you said you're familiar with them.
They don't have a training.
Oh, they don't have
per se. They're more similar to the organization for natural. I can't escape in my body, where everybody joined to be part of the I can't think of what it is right now. So they don't specifically do a training. They can back different trainers and different like they may back Holy Yoga. They may back all the different yoga studios, but they will not, they don't necessarily train.
Oh, okay. Well, this is just kind of a quote from actually off their website. It says, yoking, we know the word yoga is defined as yoking or unity, and but it says yoking for the Christian yoga practitioner refers to uniting our breath, body, and spirit with Christ, truly becoming one with him. So that basically goes along with what you're saying when you're doing your meditation on the Christ spirit, on God, etc.
Right.
And then it also says Christian yoga is how many Christians interpret scriptures found throughout the body that uses God's commandments of praise, worship, prayer, song, and dance to connect with him, or to worship him with all of our might, all of our breath, all of our spirit, and all of our being. And that's in Acts 17:28. So it kind of talks a lot about like praise dancing and praising God. So do you incorporate, and there's actually a name for that, praise dance, I think. So do you incorporate that into your, when you're doing specifically Christian yoga?
The only kind of space that I think you really have to incorporate that would be doing sun salutations, okay?
Okay.
So with sun salutations, we changed the word sun to S-O-N as opposed to S-U-N.
Right.
So as you inhale, you worshiping up, and as you exhale, you bowing before your Lord. So you can kind of make that into like a worship type thing.
Right.
I love to make my sun salutations into worship, and put on a good worship song and just do sun salutations to that, because
Right.
it just opens my heart up, and I just feel a closeness to God, and I just love, doing sun salutations to worship music.
Okay. Now I think Michael Beckwith. Have you ever heard of Michael Beckwith? I think they do. I think he has a church out in California, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not misquoting, but I think they do praise dance in some churches, but I don't know if they call themselves doing like Christian yoga or anything like
No,
that.
a lot of churches does praise dance now,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's not considered Christian yoga. It's considered praise dance.
Okay.
Almost like a modern dance. To Christian music. It's pretty much
Right.
what you can call it, or traditional yoga, traditional ballet. To Christian music.
Okay.
Because if you ever seen Alvin Ailey, he does
Oh yeah.
he does a couple of Christian, dedications. So it's kind of set up like that.
Okay. Now I didn't know that. I know a couple of my family members during their like memorial homegoing service, funeral service, they had family members that do praise dance, and they were in honor and in memory of the family member that had passed. They did a praise dance actually at the service, and I thought it was very beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful movement. Yes.
Right. Well, now another thing, I'm just gonna another piece that I saw at the Christian Yoga Association is called Prayer Postures. They call it a quick guide here. So for standing, they interpret standing, seated, kneeling, prone, and lying down postures. So standing postures are for praise and honor, thanksgiving. Seated are you're seeking counsel or guidance, sitting alone with God, enjoying God's presence. Kneeling, humility, submitting, honoring, and surrendering, and supplication and petition. Prone represent urgency, emergency, humility, releasing all ego, as in yeah. So I don't know if that sounds anything, or intercessory prayer, repentance, confession, that type of thing. And then lying down is resting and enjoying the presence and goodness of God. And then the lying down is, meditation and just contemplating, I guess, the precepts. So I don't know if you have correlations for the different types of postures that you use particularly.
Not necessarily. It just depends. It depends on the class, depending on what's going on. But in my opinion, child's pose is always a prayer pose.
Okay.
It's always a good place to just, turn your mat into an altar and just let your heart go. And we know that prayer, the pose just does so much for the body. It stretches the body in 6 different ways. So when you're in child's pose, you're stretching your top and bottom of your feet, you're stretching your hamstring, you're stretching your glutes, you're stretching so many parts of your body, but at the same time you're kneeling. So it is a good place for a prayer, or a prayer break, or a prayer pause, as I would call it.
Right.
Sitting, we tend to be in sitting and meditation, but we also can be lying in meditation. So it really depends on the class and the type of class. Now, if I'm teaching a yin class, a lot of that I may correlate. But if I'm teaching something different, a more fast-paced class, a gentleness class, because all my classes are named after the fruit of the spirit.
Yeah, tell us some. I like that. I always tell us the names of your classes.
Our name of my class is Gentleness, and that would be your beginner's class. Okay. We have a joy class, and the joy class would be like your athletic, your more advanced class. We have a meekness class, and my meekness class is more like a yin class. We have
now yin. When you say yin, that's meaning you're holding the postures longer.
Yes.
Yeah.
When yin classes, they're basically you staying on the floor, you holding the class as the pose anywhere from 2 minutes to 7 minutes. It just depends on what you decide to do at that time. And it's basically yin classes were really for opening up the hips and stretching the entire lower body.
And gets into the fascia tissue, a little deeper into the deeper part of
Yes.
the muscle tissue. Okay.
Yes. And then I have a patience class, and
Uh-huh.
that class is basically my chair yoga class.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Oh.
being patient with your body, being patient and being okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an endurance class, and
Mm-hmm.
that class is doing, and actually our endurance class, I incorporated that during the pandemic. So endurance is on Wednesday mornings. So
Okay.
whatever date of the week it is, date. So like
Mhm.
today was the 5th. So we did 5 sun salutations. So that's part of the endurance class.
Okay.
So of course the 5th day is much easier than the 20th day or the 25th day, because I mean you gotta do 25 sun salutations.
Okay.
So
Oh wow. Okay.
so we work through that, and we allow that to be our endurance. And you know, in the endurance class, it's like you know, not relying on your strength, relying on God to just infuse you with His strength, and you know,
Right.
and that's how we incorporate our endurance class.
Okay. I like that. All right. So tell us a little bit about when you started Sacred Space Yoga, and was it at the time you incorporated the Christian yoga? Let me say this first. I want to say, I know that in your yoga classes, everybody is welcome, whether, you know, no matter
Yeah,
what your belief system is. And that's what I like about yoga, because
right.
you're not, it's not, you're not judgmental, you're welcoming everybody, and it's not a religious practice, you know.
It's not.
It's a lifestyle, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and if you think about Patanjali, when he talks about the 8 paths of yoga, where you're talking about your diet, you're talking about your relationships, you're incorporating how you care for yourself, you're talking about meditation and contemplation. So it's really a lifestyle. It's not considered a religion. So um
Right.
yeah, and you
Any religion can practice yoga.
right,
You
right.
know, and the difference is sometimes Christian in a traditional yoga class, they
Yeah.
can feel a little intimidated when you talking about, you know, Buddha, when you talking about various things. But keep
Mhm,
in mind, first of all, when you think about us as Americans,
mhm.
we westernize everything.
Yeah,
So we're taking yoga way from its
yeah,
origin anyway.
exactly.
So it's very few yoga classes that you
That
will
are
go to
pure, right,
that are pure yoga class, you
right.
know. And that's why I was really strategic in choosing the type of place I went to take my first certification, because I wanted to go one where they actually use the Sanskrit word when they, you
Mhm.
know, when they do everything, you know.
Yeah.
So, but we are a long ways from that. You know, we have all types of yoga class, and people don't even take yoga at a traditional yoga studio for the spiritual guidance anyway, because it's more physical. They
Right.
just want to stand on their head and do all these crazy moves, which by chance never do a headstand in my class, because that's not what I'm about. I'm about using yoga for healing, both
Right.
mentally, physically, and spiritually. But yeah, we've taken yoga a long ways from what it was meant to be, from its original intent. So here in the West, you know, you may find different at different studios, totally different practices.
Right, right. They said that about laughter yoga too. I mean, well, in laughter yoga, we practice it different in the West than they do in the East. And at least
Okay.
that's what I've had people who have come to the class and they've done laughter yoga in India, and they say, oh, well, you guys do it a little different over here. But I think any class can be really as different as how the teacher instructs the class too. So, you know,
Right.
right?
And if you're a good teacher, even if it's your traditional joy class, your traditional whatever class, you got
Mhm.
to teach to who comes to that class.
Exactly.
Maybe everybody came to this class today and this is just a good time, but they're
Mhm.
beginners. Then I'm not going to teach a traditional joy class. We're
Right.
going to talk about joy. We're going to talk about joy being innate, you know,
And
and
all
all
of
of
that.
that. But
Right.
the postures, the poses may totally change, because you're
Mhm.
going to teach according to who comes to class.
Exactly, exactly. That's the multi-level class. I just want to bring up one of my favorite. He's a Swami, Paramahansa Yogananda. Have you read his book? What was
No,
unique, huh?
I haven't read that. No.
Okay, Paramahansa Yogananda. He makes a distinction between a Swami. He was actually a Swami, but he talks about yoga in the book. He is started the self-realization temple. You may have heard of it.
Yes.
But he says the difference between a Swami is he was just totally devoted to being one with God in his lifetime, whereas a yogi or yogini or a person practicing yoga can also be a householder, where they will have a job, they will get married, they live that type of householder life. But he has a really good definition in here about yoga, and he says that a person that has not even stepped into a yoga studio might be a yoga person, a yoga practitioner, because of their love for God or their love for humanity, or just being that person that wants to connect with that inner part that is a part of all universal life, our creator.
Right.
So, but what I liked about reading his book, and I was fascinated with him because, and I had to read it for one of my yoga teacher trainings, which was, by the way, more of a therapeutic yoga teacher training. It was the second one I did, and the first one I did was more of a traditional yoga teacher training. But anyway, what I was amazed in the book was how much he talked about the Bible in the book, and even his guru, Shrew, and I'm not going to try to say his name. I can't pronounce it. Sri Yukteswar, I think it was his name. But anyway, he was the one that encouraged him to go to the United States to talk about the marriage between Western and Eastern philosophies, because he felt that they're both had important aspects to them. And you may have heard that now they say it used to be that the spiritual teachers rose up in the East, but now they're saying spiritual teachers are rising up in the West. So there's definitely that connection. And even in the research with the Christian yoga, it was a Indian man. I don't know, I have his name really handy here, but he came to the West also, but he had studied Christianity. So I just found that to be an interesting little fact that I thought,
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, that here these are both Indian from India, and they were studying the Christian Bible. So yeah. So anyway, talk a little bit about your retreat, because you offer a retreat, and I know you got one coming up in July. And
yeah, so as part of the whole wellness with sacred space yoga. So let me go back for a second. You asked me how did I get started. So in 2008, I was still in corporate America. Okay. And at that time, I started my first yoga business, which was a mobile yoga business, okay? It was called Ego Yoga, E-G-O Yoga, which meant exalt God only, okay? And at that time, I was just going from churches to churches, and I had like 5 churches that I would 5 churches that I would go, and I would just tithe back to them 10% or whatever I made from that church. That was how we did it, and I did that from 2008 until I actually opened my yoga studio in 2015. Okay. So I'm thinking, because people kept asking me to come to the churches and stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, well, let me just open a studio and make this easier. Okay. I don't know about that yet. The jury's still out. But but what I found out after I opened the studio was, though, people are territorial. They want to stay in their area. Okay. So I was teaching in Warren. I was teaching in Lincoln Park. I was teaching in Taylor. But they didn't want to come to where they wanted me to still come to them. Right. So that was my first lesson. So I'm like, okay, people really stay in their neighborhoods and their areas, And so that's what I found out. So that's when I opened up Sacred Space Yoga Center, was in 2015. Okay. And that was on Jefferson, and we had, that was going really well. And then I got a new location on Chrysler Drive, and I added to the to my name and made it Sacred Space Yoga and Reflexology Center, because then I started doing reflexology as well. And So I was there until the pandemic. And then everybody know what happened after the pandemic, right? So so since then, and I've always done retreats. And even, I've done probably about 12 or 13 different retreats.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm thinking about kind of setting up Sacred Space to make it more of retreats, reflexology, a little bit of everything. Because remember, yoga means yoking, okay? It's bringing the mind, body, and spirit together.
Absolutely.
And you can do it through yoga, but it's also done through other avenues, okay?
Right.
The reflexology help with the healing of the body, the physical, the retreats, I can bring it all together under the retreats, but I can also, with the spiritual, with the mental, with the physical, bring that all together. And then we have our cooking classes too that we do every other week.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's doing various things under the umbrella of Sacred Space Yoga. So I'm thinking about rebranding. I haven't, I'm just kind of seeing where that's going to go, because I want to be very cohesive in what I do and what how I advertise what we do.
Right.
So with that, yes, we do yoga. Right now we do yoga on Zoom. We also rent some space with Tap Dance Detroit a couple days a week. So I'm renting some space there. Okay. Reflexology, I was renting some space, but I've had to kind of pull back on that for a moment. So I've got a pause on reflexology part of it. And then the Zoom classes, I offer about 12 classes a week on Zoom, all levels of classes.
All under those names, the names of the classes that you just talked about. Yeah.
So I teach, yes. So, and we have a hip and back class as well. So that's something that's really healing to the body. We work pretty much just on the hips and the back and strengthening and lengthening that area. We have a neck and shoulder class, which is on Wednesday nights, which will be tonight. Okay. And we work on the neck and the shoulders because, I don't know, so many people have shoulder issues and neck issues.
Yes, and back. I don't have any statistics, but a lot of people suffer from back pain, neck and shoulder pain. Now they've got this tech neck, thing going on. Looking at the phone,
So those are big classes for me, especially the hip and back, because a lot of people have that piriformis and all those issues with their hip and all that. So that class, and then the neck and back. So those are good classes. So they're not named after the fruit of the spirit, but that's Wednesday night. And then on Sunday nights at Tap Dance Detroit, actually Sundays at 4, we have a candlelight class. And that's
is that the partner? Because you also do a partner yoga. Right?
Yes, I do couples yoga as well.
Yeah.
That's done once a month. And that's with couples. Anybody that, whether you new to yoga, have not done yoga, you can do couples yoga. Actually, I work with a therapist that works with couples. Okay. And she sends all her couples to me to do at least one class with me.
Okay.
As part of their therapy. So it's learning how to work together. And sometimes nonverbal forms. It's also about touch, the power of touch in the couples yoga class.
Right.
So, and meditating together and just gazing into each other's eyes, do we gaze into our partner's eyes after 5, 10, 12 years? Trying to go back and find that love, So yes, I do a couples yoga class.
And it's fun. It's giving couples something different to do than, it's another form of thing you can do.
It's a good date night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. So then the retreats is it's another part.
Well, Trina, would you like to share in your contact information at this point? We can share it again, but maybe at this point share.
Yes, you can always contact me at sacredspaceyogadetroit.com. sacredspaceyogadetroit.com. The phone number there is 313-352-6788. 313-352-6788.
Okay. All right. And then go ahead and finish your thought. I, just wanted to.
And then so we're going to the retreat. It's July 28th, on the weekend of July 28th. And, through the 30th. And this retreat, so the year started off, I just feel God gave me that this is the year of growth.
Mm-hmm.
So we started off with our first retreat in January on growth. So this is another part of the series on growth. So it's called Unapologetically Me, the Power of Growth Retreat. And it's July 28th through the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And that retreat, we have some dynamic speakers. It's going to be a combination to where we do a lot of different things. We're going to work on mental growth, physical growth, spiritual growth. You're going to spend some time alone to a vision walk. We'll take a vision walk. We're going to work with different projects on growth, putting plants together, and then we're going to watch that plant grow and just know, because you can't grow. Growth is, you have to be intentional about growth. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
And you have to make sure that with growth that you pamper it. You have to, I have all these plants here. I don't know if you can see them all, but I had to give them names because they started dying. So I had to give them names and start talking to them.
Okay.
But I have all kind of plants here. This plant is called Joy. One is called, over there is called Mercy. One is called Love, because I have to intentionally, and I have to work with them individually. Every plant is not the same. And that's the same thing with your growth. You have to be intentional about your growth. And your spiritual growth is not the same as your physical growth, not the same as your emotional growth. So you have to work on those various aspects of your growth to bring them together. And that's where the yoking come into play and alignment.
To make it holistic. That's the whole
to make it holistic. Right. So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about, because, and we want people to be intentional. We want you to come to the retreat and we want you to be present. Because the problem that we're having, especially now, is that we spend more time, and I'm sure you've heard it, in our past and in our future than we do in our present.
Oh, yeah.
And as we linger in our past, that's where depression come into play, because you're lingering about your past, what you did and you didn't do. And when you're trying to forge forward to your present, that's when anxiety come into play, because you're just trying to figure, but here and now, the present
is where your power is.
Right. We'll talk about that in our retreat as well.
I just want to say real quick, one of my favorite quotes is, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today is a gift. That's why we call it the present.
Right.
Right. So,
right. Yeah. So the retreat, and it's only about 2 hours away, less than 2 hours away. I try to make
from the Detroit area.
From the Detroit area, yes. 2 hours away from the Detroit area.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll do yoga. We'll have a vision walk. We're working time on growth assignments. All of our food is being homemade, cooked right there on the premise, from seed to table. Most of the herbs and all the different stuff they grow themselves.
Now, is it vegetarian or vegan or
no? It's not
all of the above or any include.
If you have those restrictions, we can accommodate you. But no, it's not a plant-based or anything like that. It's a regular diet.
Okay.
So some of the things that we have planned, and I was trying to see if I had it down. So we have an afternoon of leisure before the festivities start. We have 2 lavishing nights in luxurious rooms. The rooms have jacuzzis in some of them, balconies, a good view. You can have a single or a double or a triple. 5 delicious gourmet meals. A gift bag that will serve you long after the retreat is over. Mimosas at the door when you come in. A mimosa at the door, or around the pool because it has a pool and all of that. Nice. We have that. Growth engagement sessions. We'll be working on that. And we're going to be talking about the law of the mirror, and the law of reflection. We're going to be talking about those in the growth session. Journaling and reflection time, a nature walk, self-care time, and a vision walk. And those are all the things that's going to be included in this retreat. It's a 2-night, 3-day retreat. Come in on Friday afternoon and we leave on Sunday. And just with like-minded people.
Okay. Now, so you say, is this a women's retreat or is it for?
You know, they always turn into women's retreats because so I'm gonna say yes. Now I am looking to plan a couples retreat.
I was gonna say
later on, and but yeah, they normally turn into women retreats. So I'm gonna say yes.
Right, for the most part,
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But you can get all that information on the website too, sacredspaceyogadetroit.com. You know, you get that information as well.
Oh, and thank you for that correction because I think I put it in. I missed the Detroit. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, sacredspaceyogadetroit.com. So you can get the information on the website. Like I said, you can call me. We can, if you're interested, we do have a payment plan for the retreat to help you for, if you need that payment plan to go. But the investment plan is not that, I don't think it's that bad, but, I think it's reasonable for when you talk about 2 nights, 5 meals and everything you get. We know food has gone up crazy, right? To go out.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother topic.
Right. That's a whole nother topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Like I said, this is my 12th retreat, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm planning on attending. Do you all have? You didn't mention you don't have a massage therapist.
I am working on that. So
Trina.
Well, and that's true, Laura. And I have another person that's coming that's a massage therapist. But a lot of times you guys need breaks too,
Yeah, this is true. You're right about that.
So, I'm a reflexologist. So, am I gonna do reflexology? So I'm looking in that area to see what they have. But yes, I do want to have that available as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, I do know. And like I said, there's a couple people.
I'm just teasing. You're right.
And we can talk about that later. But I would like sometimes for people to kind of step away from the craft and be nourished and let somebody serve you.
Exactly. I understand that. Body workers and health workers and yoga teachers, anybody that work with people constantly and trying to help people to relax, you definitely need to do that for yourselves as well.
Because we know we cannot pour from an empty cup.
Right, exactly.
We all have to be replenished, refueled. And so that's why I said, I thought about asking people that might come, but I'm like, but it's not allowing them to get that full healing, that full rest. Because the Lord said, I will give you rest. Just come unto me. And
that's one of my favorite words. Come to me you that are labor and heavy, I will give you
heavy burden. Yes.
Heavy burden.
And I will give you rest. And so sometimes, and even though I am, given the host of the retreat, if I don't do reflexology, I can still get that rest too. But also I'm looking to go to a retreat once I get done with mine too. But, being away, kind of turning that cell phone off and just allowing, to be nourished and to be catered to have somebody cook your food, have somebody put it before you, You can do one thing at the retreat, or you could do all of them, or you could do none. Maybe you just need to lay in the bed and rest, it's set up for you to get everything that you need to get.
Right. Sounds lovely. Well, please reach out and contact Trina by phone 313-352-6788 or go to sacredspaceyogadetroit.com and sign up for the retreat. It sounds like it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be lovely. I know I've been to a couple of your retreats and it was very enjoyable. So what happened? What happened to Chat and Chew? Is she remember Chat and Chew?
I do.
You got to see the different flowers and herbs and the ones what
you can eat and all of that. Yes, I haven't talked to her. I did send her an invite, so we'll see. Yes, everybody enjoy her.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, that was
Regina,
awesome.
yes, Mama Regina, yes,
Right.
everybody enjoy her. The
Yeah.
chat and shoes and all of that. So yes, I did reach out to her. I haven't heard back yet, but I have reached out to her.
Okay. Well, let me see here. I want to make sure we did pretty much. We actually talked about that too. Naysayers, people, non-believers, and believers in Christianity, but non-believers in yoga. We did pretty much cover all
But
that.
I want to expound upon that for a second. So you really, I have naysayers on both sides. Okay.
Okay. There you go.
So with the Christians, I do not try to convince them. I'll tell them in a minute. If you think this is not for you, then by all means don't do it.
Right.
But
Exactly.
don't knock it and don't knock it if you don't really understand it. Right. I said, now if you want to come, because I offer, the other thing is your first week at Sacred Space Yoga Center is always free. You get a chance to try all our classes out.
Really?
So your first week is free.
Wow.
You can go right on the website and there's a coupon there, get your first week free. But so I said, come and try the classes and see what it is. And if it's something that you just don't want to do, then don't come. I can appreciate that. And I'm okay with that. So I don't try to convince anybody anymore. I just explain to them what it is and what it's not. And then you can make your own decision. But I will offer you that free week to come in, and just try it out. But then on the other side of the coin, you have your regular yogis asking, well, why do y'all need a Christian yoga? Yeah. So I've had that conversation on several occasions as well. And the thing is that the Bible says as Christian we are a peculiar people, right? Yeah. So what's saying that is that a lot of time, sometimes as Christians, you feel like you are force-fed so many things. You're forced to accept this, forced to listen to secular music when you go get your nails done or wherever you're going. All this is forced on us, okay? So sometimes you just want a place just for you, or a place where you feel comfortable. Right. Where I'm not saying Sanskrit words, or I'm not throwing Buddha at you, or the universe, or whatever the sayings are, So it's sometimes, so that's what I try to explain to them is that the yoga is the same, the philosophy is the same, because as you know, pretty much with all religions, the premise is the same. Non-violent, non-harming, taking care of your body, all that's pretty much the same.
Treating your neighbor as yourself,
The difference is who you believe in, who your higher power is, who you believe in, who is your God.
And a lot of that, and you know what, Trina, a lot of that is, because we have all different nationalities. Someone in India, you wouldn't necessarily expect them the same. If you think of Sanskrit words, isn't that a language? So if they're speaking their language, that's how they're going to interpret. If we're speaking English, we're going to interpret our way. If you're speaking, whatever your language is. So people, they worship according to what what their culture is. So what I do like about, and I think isn't Christianity is supposed to be open to accept all people, right? That's the way I thought I interpreted it. I don't know. But
anyway. Yes, it is open. It's love. You accept everybody. But everybody's not going to accept your philosophy or who you serve or who your God is, or going to accept Jesus. Jesus is pretty much the person that separates us from various religions, or that separates, religions.
Right. Well, another thing that will happen. I used to listen to a Christian talk radio, and I was so surprised where they are. Hey, if you don't like it, you don't have to be around it. You don't have to, go and do what you want to do. That's kind of the way I look at life. I have had, naysayers on another side of and I don't know what it was. I don't remember how I said it in the class. And the lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, if you're going to be talking about something about God or Christian in the class, I don't think I can come anymore. And I just thought that was odd. I don't even remember what I said. I don't remember what I may have said, a word or something. And I said, "Oh, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you in any way." And I kind of explained it off, or however I said it, whatever I said at the time. It's been a while. But there's some people that don't, so you're always going to have somebody that is not going to whatever go with what you're doing. But you have to kind of just be who you are. That's how I look at it. Be who you are, and those people that are in alignment with you will be drawn to you, and the people that are not in alignment with you, they will move on. So,
and and that's the beauty of yoga and the beauty of a choice. You can choose. I can go to a Christian yoga studio. I can go to a non-traditional. You can choose. There's a ton of yoga out here, and a ton you can choose from. So if you don't like this, my thing is that just say it wasn't for me. Don't down it. Don't just say it wasn't my choice. It's not for me. And that's what I'll say when somebody say, "Well, you go here." No, I don't go to that studio. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just not my preference.
It's not your style. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Lord, I met you some years ago, and it started with your laughter yoga. And my journey, the journey has always been out with me on laughter yoga. You know that.
Yeah.
But let me just say this: I'm starting to teach classes now to students with dementia. Okay. It's a chair yoga class. But when I started this, I said, "Oh God, Laura will be really happy with me." I've added spots of laughter yoga in that class.
Oh, okay.
Where they just spontaneously laugh for no reason.
I'm going to say that. Okay, that is awesome. We're going to talk more about that after the show because we are actually at time. Thank you so much for being here, Trina. Thank you for watching, listening. Please join me every Wednesday at 11 a.m. for Namaste Wellness Show. Until then, stay safe, stay well. Namaste.
Namaste.